You rip it on stream today. Gifted Fazby, first gifted mythic by the way.
Nutshot videos, but holy shit, grinding in this game is on a whole nother level. Compared to this, Demon Fall grind was like a walk in the park.
I don't want to do that at all. Oh yeah! What? Are you kidding me?
Let me tell you right now, we are gonna be the... Look at me when I'm talking to you!
I always found Bee Swarm Simulator and its popularity for what it includes be so intriguing. Simulators were notoriously known to fall off in a day, week, month, or perhaps a year later. But Bee Swarm Simulator never did that. They abided by those deaths that each simulator went through and still lived on gaining popularity. So it made me question, why is Bee Swarm the best Roblox simulator that has released? What did they possibly do to make this game so intriguing and stay worthy? That is for me to investigate. Bee Swarm Simulator, or BSS, released on March 23, 2018 to show what the game was about. It was purely about going to flower fields, collect the pollen, and then go back to your hive to convert that pollen into honey. Like any simulator game, you had bags and tools to buy, but the tools weren't the real thing to keep you to stay. Sure, you needed honey for them and it was a need to not overfill your bag, but the bigger part of Bee Swarm Simulator was the bees. The thing about BSS that they had multiple variations of bees, and those bees had different abilities which you can hatch and boost your pollen collection or even your main honey production. Bees were the main importance to this game, and I know, it was pretty clear from the start that it would be. Though back then, Bee Swarm never had too much as the current Bee Swarm now, so despite the new shift in gameplay, there were bigger competitors that kept on coming out for Bee Swarm. Pet Simulator was one of them, as they quite literally made pets be a number-inducing pain until the game fell off due to a lack of updates. There were multiple simulators like the Mining Simulator, but remember what I said at the start of this video. Each simulator has an end date to why it dies, and those end dates were mostly due to running out of ideas to progress forward with the game. You get new tools and then you become so strong that you really have no need to play the game until the next update, then you slowly distance yourself away from it. That was the turning point to every simulator. Onett might have realized this and tried updating much as possible to add better extensions to the gameplay like long quests, leveling bees, and crafting items. It started to become more of a lengthy game rather than having this rebirth cycle or insane scale for getting money in other games. Though remember, Onett was in competition with simulator games. These games were always trying to top the front page every day. Hundreds were being made, and Bee Swarm was at 5k to 10k players back then. And the other simulators were peaking up to 15,000 up to 20,000 alone, which the smaller ones were about around Bee Swarm's CCU. BSS was in a complicated standpoint. Such as that, Onett didn't have much motives to continue updating Bee Swarm by the week anymore, since he was the only developer. It was starting to get tiring for him and he slowly started to shift to a monthly update cycle, but even Onett couldn't do that as often. It really wasn't looking good for BSS and the YouTubers started to look for newer simulators and profiting off that. It genuinely seemed like Bee Swarm did something wrong, like the ideas to make a game last wasn't working. But soon enough, Onett started to realize that the game doesn't die. Obviously, when a game has a community, they start to be loyal to that game, hoping for the next update or even trying to complete the game to its fullest. When other simulators died, Bee Swarm was there to grab the attention of new players. The ones who left to play another simulator game would always come back sometime again. Those monthly updates were hardly needed, as people had so much to grind that it lasts months on end without an update. But Bee Swarm wasn't known for its long playtime to keep people hooked. It was the famous event that was known as Beesmas. Beesmas always comes around every year and offers so much to do, with that being a return of boosting your progression or honey making. It is by far one of the most anticipated community events each time December would come around. These events will always boost Bee Swarm by a lot in player count, which Bee Swarm ended up using FOMO to tell people that they're getting quests that will award them good things in exchange. And when they disappeared, the player count will always go back to its average without update for a while. Of course, when the epidemic in 2020 came around, a lot of people were locked inside, which offered a lot more attention to developers. Bee Swarm was never really bounded to die at this time, so big updates started to get pushed up to a year. During 2021, the stress of the game and the modeling assets started to get more hard for Onett, which he soon decided that he needed to hire a 3D modeler for his game while he scripts. BSS generally became something the community stood with, and those who always questioned when is the update had to meet the reality that the updates were by a near single dev scripting this game. In fact, Bee Swarm's community was so loyal that they started making builds and a general guide on the game. No other simulator came close to what Bee Swarm's community was, but slowly over time, something appeared that would change how Bee Swarm and his community would adjust to the game. And that thing was macroing. I talked a lot about macroing in my older videos when it came to Fish and some other games, but Bee Swarm's macroing community was so huge and so functional that the endgame players use it. Macroing didn't ruin Beastworm, but it changed how some players looked at the game. For example, red hives were mostly for active people while blue was mostly for macroing. These two splits in how the community functioned made players pick between a life of playing a game and making honey passively, or playing the game actively while keeping things short term. Macroing wasn't a problem because it wasn't breaking any game rules. People progressed faster overnight, but Onett knew of this. That is why there is so much harder attainments today than years prior. Onett didn't want to get rid of the idea of macroing. It wasn't killing their game, but separating it into groups of people to progress in. Blue hives were so strong for macroing that Onett had to nerf them several times in order to keep a good pace with red hives. Macroing did change how the game is, and its logic potentially made certain obtainments today harder. But that didn't stop people from playing the game actively. They didn't think this was a challenge. That is why Beastworm is so undying. The simulators before 2023 were slowly starting to fall from shine, and BSS started to break through that being the top simulator game with a player base. But I'm forgetting something. What else does Beastworm have that ended up making Beastworm the best simulator? The sounds and numbers. Beastworm's sound design is so damn good that I had to turn my volume down to not get too addicted into the game while making this video. Each sound makes you be so convicted into thinking that you're about to make tons of profit just hearing the whole field go rampant with noises. And it isn't only the sound, it's also the numbers. Beastworm literally does a better job at trying to keep people at bay, making them think that they're getting somewhere if they just keep playing, and it works. Pet Simulator X in '99 followed this logic and tried using sound cues and jingles of coins to attract people into staying in their game. Hell, even the quizzes are like this too. You will want to see them turn all green so you can turn them in for an anticipated reward. What I'm trying to say is, Beastworm does an insane job at trying to keep players hooked by using sound design and visuals to their disposal to make a game good. Though let me take you into my story. I have alone played this game since release, but I truly started getting into it 3 years ago. And yes, I do macro. But even if I do, the game is still enjoyable in its own way for people who actively grind or passively grind. It never feels like there's a burnout or no point to grind something. BSS never makes you feel like the stuff you get or the hive you accomplish doesn't go to waste. The idea of Beastworm dying is impossible because there's so much to do in this game that it's hard letting it go. If you want me to give you an accurate time for how long this game takes to 100%, it's about 3 years. The endgame role is such a hard feat today that a small fraction of the community has 2 endgame tools, and even a smaller group that has all 3 and the plants are plenty. Beastworm succeeded at being a simulator game because it did things others couldn't. So in my own eyes, this game will never die, because of the genuine love from the community keeping this game alive and hoping for future updates that can be game changing. But that is all I have to say for the time being, and likewise, thank you for watching, subscribe if you want, and I'll see you on the next one.